Welcome back, folks, to the Shaving Points podcast. My name is Quentin Crisco. We are lucky to be joined today by Michael Rochman, NFL draft analyst, who is currently with the Game Day NFL and Steelers Depot. But I want to look at the NFC North draft classes. Give me one sentence or one word to describe the draft class. We'll kick off with Green Bay here. So what's one sentence or one word or however you want to do it to describe this draft class?
I think there's a lot of upside here. Van Ness, Musgrave, Dontavian Wicks, all guys I'm very high on, especially like what I think they can become. And, they had so much capital in this draft with so many picks that I kind of like their approach to just kind of swing and see what they do. That's a big thing that Eric DeCosta of the Ravens has talked about, where he's just, you have so many picks, you just keep swinging and eventually around a hit, more so than if you're just taking like 3 picks and trying to make it work with those guys. So for the Packers, I love Musgrave and Kraft. I think both those guys are going to end up working out for them. I like Reed.
Yeah.
I really love Wicks, and I think Van Ness is going to make it very, very much work in that kind of scheme. I think he's a great fit. So I like what it is. Sorry, I know that's not the one word or one sentence.
Oh, you're good.
Just wanted to provide context behind what I said.
It's always sad to see a lifelong Bears fan become a cheesehead. It's just a sad day. And that's Lucas Van Ness.
Yeah. I will say the Sean Clifford pick was abysmal. No idea what that was.
I mean, good couldn't say good with quarterbacks, I guess. So Detroit, what you got on Detroit?
I will say Detroit's draft is probably the one that's been made fun of most early on in this draft cycle. And I understand it, but I do think it's going to age a lot better than what is being addressed as now, because Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be a good player. Like, Jack Campbell is going to be what you expect Jack Campbell to be in the NFL. Laporta is going to be good. Brian Branch is going to be, he's going to fulfill his role. And so I feel like all these guys are pretty safe players to like do well in the NFL. The big issue for this draft is that they didn't draft like high value positions or positions that really like were big needs for this team. So that's where I think a lot of people are confusing it, because you want to call the Lions the losers of the draft, whatever, but like 3-4 years down the road, we're not going to be saying, man, that Lions draft was awful. You're going to be looking at it and saying like, oh yeah, Campbell started for like 7 years for them, and Gibbs put up a few 1,000-yard seasons and was like one of the more versatile running back weapons in the NFL whenever he was at his peak. Brian Branch was a starting slot corner for them. Laporta started at tight end for them. Like, it's not going to age as bad as a lot of people want it to, or at least they're mocking it right now. But I get it from a just positional value standpoint. It was a little bit questionable for a Detroit team that was really a great draft away from kind of making that next step and potentially even being a team that could contend in the NFC if Goff was able to kind of right the ship. But at the same time, I don't think it's as bad as a lot of people are trying to, make fun of it for.
I think that's fair. I mean, I think it's very safe.
Yeah. And there's reasonable criticism with that. I just don't think it's going to be one of those things where it's like, oh, this draft's awful, and then it's going to be like 3 years down the road, it's like, oh, we told you it was awful. It's going to be like, okay, those players are okay. I can understand it. But it was very safe, and one that I think doesn't capitalize on where they're at right now as a team. I think it was more important to try to swing a little bit harder and see what you could hit on and see what you could turn this team into. And instead, I think it's a situation where, you're getting solid players, but I don't know if it's going to be where you're like turning into a contender because of this class.
All right. So for the Packers, we're going to call it just keep swinging. For Detroit, we're just going to call it very safe.
Very safe.
And what do we got on Minnesota?
Minnesota is going to be hit and miss, I think, is what I got to do.
Hit and miss?
Yeah. So, you look at Jordan Addison. I love that duo of him and Justin Jefferson. I think, some people would have concern just because they're similar style receivers where, you may think like, oh, it's too much overlap in terms of what their utilization is. But when you have two receivers that are just high quality, great release off the line of scrimmage, the whole, are they going to play X, Y, or Z? It doesn't really matter that much. the big thing is trying to get guys out there that can produce. And the further we go into simplifying the offenses and just scheming these types of things, the less these, traditional roles matter. So an offense that features Addison and Jefferson is more dangerous than is too much of the same overlap. But then, they go into the second round and they draft Mekhi Blackmon, who I'm not even a hater on Mekhi Blackmon, but this was a huge reach for our third round pick. But still, it's a situation where this is someone that, he had some good PFF grades, and maybe that's something that they value, just that type of analytic type evaluation or something, and that will tell a different story. But from my own personal film evaluation, I felt like there's a lot of limitations, and he's a skinny, smaller kind of guy, and you kind of have Byron Murphy, who's already hopefully going to be that guy for you, where he's an inside out type dude who can match up with people pretty well, but he's not necessarily the biggest. You're now adding a second one, and I know I was just talking about, as long as they're talented, it doesn't matter for the receivers, but you need some guys that can match up to size and play physical on the outside at the cornerback position, or else you're going to have some issues when, let's say they go and face a team like the Chargers, where they have Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and now Quentin Johnston. Who are you putting Byron Murphy on that he's not massively oversized? And now who are you putting Mekhi Blackmon on that he's not massively oversized? So,
and Jay Ward too, right? Jay Ward's a smaller guy.
Yeah, and Jay Ward, I think, is someone that could potentially be looked at as a safety for them. He's got some solid height, but he's someone that I think is instinctive enough to where, whether it's free safety or strong safety, I'm not sure. I project him as a strong safety, but I don't know. I like Ward. I like his pick here, but I didn't like the Blackmon selection. I don't like the Jaren Hall pick, but it's a day 3 type deal where they're just kind of grabbing a QB. So whatever. Minnesota lost a lot of talent this offseason in terms of just there were way too many holes left on their roster going into this draft, and I don't think they did enough to address it to where I feel comfortable with them winning the division. So, for teams like Chicago and Detroit, they're probably licking their chops a little bit more in Minnesota now, seeing, okay, they didn't capitalize on it in this draft.
We'll call this one hit and miss, semicolon, where's the beef?
Definitely.
That sound good?
Yeah, okay. Absolutely.
I just wanted to get that where's the beef in there. That just felt right. All right. Now, we already talked about the Bears class some, but what's your overall look at it? And we'll find the sentence that makes sense.
I think this is 100% pure beef, really. I mean, this is an aggressive draft class that is going to be a lot about the physicality of the Chicago Bears going forward. Darnell Wright added to that offensive line that, not only struggled, but also kind of lacked that kind of mean streak on that offensive line. And now you're trying to add in Darnell Wright, who I think is going to be a great, not only young piece for it, but I think he's probably going to be the guy that ends up being the identity of that offensive line once they kind of reach their peak of play. Guys like Gervon Dexter and Zach Pickens on the defensive line, even a guy like Tyreek Stevenson or Roshan Johnson, those are physical guys for the position. So these are all guys that are going to go in there and fight every Sunday. And, maybe the play is not going to be perfect. They're rookies, obviously, but these are guys you're never going to be looking at their film and saying, man, where's the aggressiveness or where's the effort? These are all guys that are going to go in and fight every single Sunday. They're looking at it as war. And, I think that's great for the identity of what Chicago wants to be.
War. I like that. Just war. That makes sense to me.
Works out for
all right. So I think that's all we got here. Why don't you tell everyone where they can find you and your work?
Yeah. So on Twitter, you can find me at @MR_NFL draft. And, if you're looking for my work, you can search up Michael Rochman Steelers Depot or Michael Rochman The Game Day. Also, if you want to see more NFL draft centric content, check out 2 Minute Drill on YouTube. Me and my buddy Bailey mostly are the operators for that channel. And, it's been growing a little bit. So, could be getting in a little bit before it completely blows up. But you don't have much time. We're keeping growing every single day.
It's great work you guys do. I enjoy your guys' videos. They're good
I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks for coming on, Michael. And thank you all for listening. Hope you all enjoyed the NFL draft and have a great night.
Thanks for having me. Take care.